Wrestling with wrestling's past and present.
How old were you?
I was -3.
JR is trying to contain Jim Ross.
McFlurry,
It's Mick Foley. Definitely not his, the barn burner that we've cast the entire rally. Singh was, but, we'll leave that there.
We digress.
God, I hope that storyline ends soon.
And 6 to 8 weeks later, they mail you a freaking magnet.
Yep. You may know him as the Red Rooster.
Hager kept making out with his wife. It was weird. So then, I'm waiting for them to put the Zelina Vega on a pole match for that to be. It is in the mail, my good sir. Oh, it wasn't. Paul. Giving us a reason to come here and listen to ourselves talk.
Absolutely,
and then you can listen to us too. We're off to a rough start.
This is Wrestling with Wrestling's Past and Present. I'm Tim Kurt.
And I'm Mongo.
And today our topic is Capital Carnage from 1998. Before we get into the show, just a quick programming note. Roland is not here today. He is under the weather. He's not feeling well, so Mongo is gracious enough to fill in. So thank you for joining us today, Mongo.
Thank you for having me. Feel better, buddy. We send love your way.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, feel better, Roland. So Capital Carnage 1998 WWF pay-per-view, UK only pay-per-view, took place December 6th, 1998. So it's hard to believe, but it's been about 22 years since that show took place.
I know. I actually remember watching this. Once I started watching again, I remember getting the tape from Blockbuster just because I had that little sticker, like UK only event, never seen in the US. And it was great marketing, so I was like, oh, I have to watch this. And
yeah.
Now with the network, it's a lot easier, but getting that tape was like, okay, I want to watch this pay-per-view. And watching it brought back a lot of memories.
It did, yeah, a lot of memories. This is in the heart of the Attitude Era, which is kind of my favorite era of WWE at the time. These are kind of like the late 90s shows are my favorite to do from WWF, so looking forward to kind of dissecting this one.
Well, yes, it definitely even had the Attitude Era feel without spoiling anything we're going to talk about. There's even some of the stuff in the match and the storylines were definitely high 90s, height of the Attitude Era. It was great, and it was cheesy. It was wrestling. It was definitely wrestling.
Yes, it was. All right, so there's actually quite a bit of matches to discuss today. There was one dark match, which was Draws, getting a win over Mosh in about 6 minutes. Obviously, we weren't able to see this match since it was a dark match, but we're actually going to see both of these guys a little bit later on in the show.
I was going to say, I think it's kind of funny they did a Draws versus Mosh match, because then later on they do the Headbangers versus LOD 2000, which is the exact same player. So kind of an interesting choice. Not sure, maybe it's just to feel out Draws or feel out Mosh. Very interesting choice. It said it was only 6 minutes, so obviously it couldn't have been too much showcasing.
Yeah, I'm not sure how great the match was. And actually, speaking of the time of the matches, the first several matches here, very short, about just like under 5 minutes, a lot of the matches. So they definitely crammed a lot in here, which was like a under 3 hour pay-per-view.
Yeah, that's what surprised me the most was that, I think pay-per-views, especially WWF style, you think 3 hours, 4 hours for the big four. And this one felt very short. It got to the main event before I knew it. So it was definitely quick. And I can't imagine being in a live crowd how, quick this felt. Because it didn't really ramp up until it got to, the main events.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll get started. Our opening match was Gangrel in full Brood gimmick here, getting a win over Al Snow with Head in just under 6 minutes. Gangrel get the win after a little shenanigans from Edge and Christian as part of the Brood. This brought back a lot of memories. I remember really kind of as a kid kind of being freaked out by Gangrel. He did the whole, spitting out the supposed blood kind of gimmick in his entrance.
The bloodbath, too, especially when, when they were working a storyline. My favorite thing he would do is just douse everybody in blood in the middle of the ring. And,
yeah.
Yeah, it was missing the fire entrance. I was a little disappointed because one of my favorite things of his gimmick was he came up from the floor with a ring of fire.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, I didn't even think of that, but you're right. Yeah, he didn't do that here. And Al Snow is a great hand in wrestling. I mean, I think he's part of OVW right now. So he can have a pretty good match with anybody. I don't know if this was their best match, and it's kind of I don't know if it was the best way to start the show, but it was entertaining in spots.
I think it kind of went to show two underused wrestlers who had a lot of talent in the ring.
Mm-hmm.
Just maybe their gimmicks didn't translate as well as they hoped.
Yeah.
I mean, Al Snow, this is the height of the Job Squad era. This was the height of the Pay Me era, where he knew he was a jobber. He didn't care. He just loved wrestling. Gangrel surprisingly looked very fluid in the ring, and I don't really remember that. So it is kind of surprising. And I do know he has been up in Maine recently with Limitless Wrestling, because I went to a Limitless Wrestling show last summer, and he was up there. So he still wrestles today, which is very uncanny.
Absolutely, and he actually just made an appearance at AEW as part of the Matt Hardy Sammy Guevara match at Full
That's
Gear. Right. So he's still relevant to this day.
So he's definitely a veteran, I think, that can pass on some knowledge. And that match, to me, going back to watch it, knowing how smart both these people are in the industry and how much they have to give, it was interesting to see essentially the two veterans kind of in the height of their career showing off what they can do. So it was a decent match, but like you said, it wasn't really a barn burner or anything like that. But it was a decent match, and I think it went through. They only got about 5 minutes-ish, like you said, so kind of hard to showcase, but it was a solid match. And the continuation with the Brood, Edge and Christian, was cool. The shenanigans, as you call it, that was fun to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. Next up is a tag team match. You have the Headbangers, Mosh and Thrasher, getting a win over LOD 2000, which was represented by Animal and Draws. Quick match here, just over 3 minutes. They had a little bit of storyline with the LOD 2000, which did not age well with Hawk, and jumping off the Titantron and battling his personal demons and everything like that. So that did not age well. But not much of a match here. Only like I said, only 3 minutes. But I remember liking the Headbangers as a kid. That this brought back some memories. I kind of liked their gimmick back then.
I know they definitely had a good gimmick, and this was, I think, one of the last stretches before, unfortunately, split up the Headbangers. And I think we had Chaz, or I can't remember who he went to, but he ended up going with Beaver Cleavage. I'm pretty sure that's what it led into eventually. I feel like I like the match because I also like the Headbangers. I love LOD. I'm a huge LOD mark. So to me, this one kind of hurt my soul a little bit. Nothing against Draws, just the whole LOD 2000. And like you said, the angle with, Hawk fighting his demons, which unfortunately were real.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately took his life as well. But seeing him on the Titantron getting pushed off, and, the storyline leading into Draws being the supplier, essentially trying to take his place in the LOD. I get why they did the storyline. I'm not bothered by the storyline because that's wrestling. Wrestlers agree to that. Unfortunately, they do these storylines because it creates ratings. Eric Bischoff famously said, "Controversy creates cash." It totally does. So it was a halfway decent match. Like you said, it was short. I think they could have gone longer because Draws was a good wrestler before he got hurt. Animal was a good wrestler, and the Headbangers were so fluid together. I think they should have given them a little more time because it was a decent match. Like you said, it had a good story to it.
Yeah, absolutely. And in Animal, we just lost Animal just a couple weeks ago. So that was, a sad loss for the wrestling community. But next up, we have Val Venus and Goldust in about a 5-minute match here. They actually had some story with this involving Terry Runnels. Obviously was married to Goldust at the time, but had an affair with Val Venus. And then she was trying to win Goldust back, and Goldust didn't take her. And
the infamous "I'm pregnant" angle.
Yep. Another angle that doesn't really age well today.
No. And then essentially Val Venus being the typical scummy character he was, that I don't care if it's mine, I'm not staying with you kind of mentality.
Yep.
Got to give credit to Sean Morley. This Val Venus character would not age well today. It would not work today. But man, in the 90s, it was fun. I mean, I'm not a big Val Venus fan just because I wasn't, the intended target. But, just hearing "hello, ladies," just his little shtick as he came in, and then just Goldust. I mean, the two most extravagant wrestlers, I think, fighting was fun because they're both just so extreme and so not one-dimensional. Let's just say.
Yeah, definitely taking characters that are probably not that reflective in real life at all. I mean, Goldust is a country boy,
right?
And everything. So yeah, this was really entertaining, and like I said, it had some story to back it up. I think it probably could have went a little bit longer. They're both pretty talented wrestlers. I mean, Dustin is probably better today than he was back then, but still, he could go.
I know. I was gonna say, Dustin Runnels right now is coaching the AEW Women's Division promos, because that's one of the things he did that was underutilized. His promos were some of the best promos. If you go back to the Razor Ramon promos, if you go back to the feud with Triple H, he just had some world beater promos, and he wasn't the best wrestler in the ring. He was very talented and very underutilized. I think this match too, another one that kind of showed two underutilized guys who had a lot of potential. Just their gimmicks just kind of held them back.
Yeah, I agree. Next up, we have Tiger Ali Singh and Edge, and another quick match here, just under 3 minutes. Edge is part of the Brood here. Tiger Ali Singh was doing the whole India gimmick. Yeah, I don't know. This one was just filler for me.
It was a popcorn match.
Yeah, pretty much.
I was kind of surprised going back. Maybe it's because Edge wasn't really as over, but seeing Tiger Ali Singh get the rub was kind of surprising.
Mm-hmm.
Just because I feel like he was kind of like Ataka Michinoku, where he was never really over, but he was never really shoved away. He was kind of just there.
Yeah.
I don't know. I hate to say it, I don't really remember him as much until the match, and then he kind of came back. I'm like, oh yes, that's right, he existed, which is sorry to say, he's a talented wrestler. I feel bad, but the gimmick just wasn't memorable, I guess.
Yeah, not really. Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I mean, he was just kind of there for a while and not really a memorable character at all.
But it definitely showed the potential of Edge in the match. I mean, I know it was only a few minutes, but just his ring awareness was, shown through, and it's just funny to see how he went from the Brood to the Rated R Superstar, which made sure I had to rock that shirt today, just because I knew we were going to talk about Edge a little bit. So.
All right, next up we have a mixed tag team match. You have Christian and Sable getting a win over Jacqueline and Mark Marrow in just under 5 minutes. Jacqueline and Mark Marrow did not get along in this match. Jacqueline's attacking Mark. Yeah, this match was all right. Sable did the Sable Bomb and a TKO on Jacqueline to get the win. TKO is an F5 move. I think, though, the most notable thing is at the end of this match where Jacqueline's on Tim White's shoulders and she gets exposed.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say Sable pulls that top right down.
Yep.
I think, as a kid, I remember watching on the home video and going, wow, that just happened. All right.
Yeah.
All right. I kind of feel bad because, Jacqueline is definitely one of the pioneers of the women division. So I kind of feel bad that that's what's remembered about this match. But Sable, to me, I was never a big Sable fan. I mean, the only reason why she got a push, admittedly, from her and Vince was because she was attractive and they wanted that Pam Anderson type.
Mm-hmm.
I never thought she was the most fluid wrestler. I give her credit because she tried. She bumped. She tried. I definitely thought it was an interesting match. Like you said, it was kind of full of shenanigans. And then her giving the TKO to Jackie, as a nod to, hey, that's Mark Marrow's finisher. But then ripping off the top. I'm like, okay, so at least they furthered the storyline. But that was kind of another one of those matches, I hate to say it, the typical Attitude Era, mixed gender matches that were just kind of meh.
Yeah, pretty much. It would not age well today, I don't think.
Not at all.
Not at all.
No. But thankfully, Miss Jacqueline went on to have a very successful career. And so did Christian. Sable and Mark Marrow, not so much.
No. Next up is a match for the Intercontinental Championship. You have Ken Shamrock, along with the Big Boss Man, getting a win over Steve Blackman by submission here in about 6:51. Throughout the match, they were kind of teasing an interference by the Big Boss Man, and he really didn't do anything. Steve Blackman actually attacked him first, and then Big Boss Man hit him with some sort of lead pipe or something to the ankle, and it caused Ken Shamrock to put the ankle lock on, and that's your win.
Yeah, I was going to say, too, that was the biggest tease. The whole match was, is Big Boss Man going to interfere? Is he going to interfere? And then, taking that shot to the pipe, I like that they set the story up. They set that he could work that part because Ken Shamrock having the ankle lock, and and he was one of the people when he cinched that ankle lock in, it was pretty much over.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people don't give Ken Shamrock a lot of credit. I thought he was a great performer, still is. Can't believe he's still in Impact today wrestling. well into his 50s, still looks phenomenal, still could kick the crap out of me if he wanted to. I thought it was a good match. I like Steve Blackman. I thought he had a good gimmick. It just, he never got over. I think he unfortunately had Dean Malenko disease where he just didn't show any emotion on his face.
No personality. Yeah.
So I think that was the problem with him is he could move in the ring. He just Dean Malenko, the whole thing, just didn't stare. Just he would sell and just his face would be blank. Ken Shamrock, the exact opposite, always full of emotion. He was screaming, smashing his head when he came out to the ring. I think it was a great match. I think the right person won. I thought it was a fun match. Ken Shamrock definitely didn't really get a full run in WWF that he should have, but I think this match definitely showed he could go, and I thought it was a good match. And like you said, the tease of the Big Boss Man made it fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Next up, we have Triple H with China getting a win over Jeff Jarrett with Deborah in about 7 minutes here. It's kind of cool to look back at early Triple H. This is before he was, a main event superstar that he became. Obviously, he had the whole DX thing and everything like that. But it's interesting to me to go back and watch him, long tights Triple H.
I was gonna say seeing Triple H in those like the pants tights and not seeing him in the what he wears today and just even his look, like his ponytail. Sometimes he'd throw on there. But he looked smaller, and that's weird to me. He looked smaller.
Yeah, he did.
But he's not a small guy, so it was weird to me. It's like, he's not a small guy, but he looked smaller. Kind of like how The Rock looked small in 2000, Jack today. It's uncanny.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was a good match. I thought it was, Jeff Jarrett's Jeff Jarrett. I mean, he's another one. I think he's good as a promo, but he's always been kind of a glorified mid-carder. But I think this match showed Triple H's prowess a little bit more and kind of showed his cerebral assassin starting to peak a little bit. Like you said, the DX angle was there. It was actually a decent match overall. I thought Triple H moved well in the ring, and I thought that Jeff Jarrett, was I can't think of the word. He sold it better than I thought, because usually in Jeff Jarrett matches he doesn't typically like to sell. So it was kind of nice to see that this is DB Jeff Jarrett before he kind of got money hungry and cared more about himself, went to business for himself mentality.
Mm-hmm. And then you had the shenanigans with Deborah trying to seduce Triple H at the end there, and trying to coming in and attacking. So, but it wasn't overdone, I don't think. So I think it made sense within the match. So I thought this one was pretty good.
Yeah, definitely. It's eerie to see China again, especially losing here, but it shows me how dominating that she was, and just her presence was physically domineering. Like, you see her presence and you're like, wow, she could keep up with the boys, and she did, and she proved it, a year later, that Good Housekeeping match that she had.
Yeah, absolutely. Next up is a tag team match for the tag team championships. You have the New Age Outlaws getting a win over D'Lo Brown and Mark Henry in about 12 and a half minutes here. I was always a big fan of the New Age Outlaws. They're one of my favorite tag teams. They're really entertaining. I think they're a little underrated for what they can do in the ring, especially Billy Gunn. So I always like going back and watching these matches. They're really entertaining. D'Lo Brown and Mark Henry, I've never been the biggest fan of them. Mark Henry was still kind of green here. He only been in the business a couple of years at this point. And D'Lo Brown was just kind of another one that was just there for me, not really remarkable. But I thought this match was all right. It's the longest match of the night so far, and I think this is kind of where the show kind of picks up a little bit, these last three matches.
I was going to say, this is kind of when it felt like a pay-per-view. This is kind of when it felt, because in the beginning it kind of felt like a UK Raw. It kind of just felt like what they would do for their Monday Night Raw. This one did feel like a pay-per-view match. And, I'm also a huge New Age Outlaws mark. Absolutely loved, from the entrance to, their speech in the ring, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Everything about them worked, and just the different styles of Billy Gunn and Road Dogg. Road Dogg, like the Southern style, juking and jiving. And then you have Billy Gunn, who he's just stronger than he looks. And I met him, and he is taller than he looks. He's probably got to be 6'5", 6'6". He made me look tiny, and that's not an easy job to do.
If you listen,
sorry, go ahead.
No, if you listen to any of the Conrad Thompson podcast, Conrad said he's about the same size as Hulk Hogan.
Which, when you see him in the ring, it doesn't look like it, but then when you see him I mean, even just go back and watch Sabrina the Teenage Witch when he cameoed on there. He's pretty massive in that one. So little fun throwback around the same time. But yeah, this was a great match. I'm kind of the same way with you and D'Lo and Mark Henry. Mark Henry was very green in this match. You could tell he was very new with some of the hold. He did a lot of rest holds, so that was kind of obvious. D'Lo Brown the same way. Yeah, he was just kind of there. I think when he was European champion, that's when he was more what suited him the best. They were just kind of there. I think the New Age Outlaws were the right ones to go over because this is when they were really getting hot. This is when DX was really getting hot. And I think that the New Age Outlaws they were fun. And like you said, they could go in the ring. You know, a lot of people didn't give them as much credit. They were great on the mic and they were great in the ring. They're kind of everything you want in wrestling. Good on the stick and good between the ropes.
Absolutely. Our next match is a singles match for the WWF Championship. You have The Rock getting a win over X-Pac by disqualification. I believe it was originally supposed to be The Rock and Triple H here, but Vince McMahon made some changes to the match and put in X-Pac. The Rock got involved with China, which would cause Triple H to attack The Rock, and that's the disqualification. I thought the match was excellent. I'm not sure if I liked the finish a whole lot, but I thought X-Pac really held his own in this match, and it really showcased what X-Pac can do in the ring.
No, I think so too. I think X-Pac kind of got the short end of the stick. I mean, I almost wish he'd rather have lost clean just because he put on a great performance in this match against The Rock. And, you know, everyone jokes, Conrad even says X-Pac heat. And I didn't really notice he got booed out of, here. I felt like it was a very neutral crowd for him. And I thought he did well. And then, like you said, the China and Triple H, getting involved to kind of set up the, feud with The Rock and Triple H. Okay, but I kind of feel bad for X-Pac too because it was a good match. And I think he should have lost clean because they both did, The Rock is The Rock. What you can say a million great things about him, but X-Pac, like you said, he held his own. He kept up with him. And I still love the Bronco Buster. It's one of my favorite ridiculous moves that he does.
Yes. Do you like his or Mae Young's better?
I got to go with X-Pac. Poor guy's got injured on it a few times too, so I feel like he deserves to have the rub on that one.
We get to our main event here. Before we do, Tony Chimmel announces that Shane, not Shane McMahon, he's just going by Shane here, is going to be the ring announcer. And Shane brings out a couple people. He brings out Pat Patterson as the special guest timekeeper. And that really got to me this week because we just lost Pat Patterson, which is a huge loss. I don't know if people realize how big of a loss it is for WWF. I mean, he's Vince McMahon's right-hand man.
Yeah, and he's trained some of the greats. He's helped train The Rock and Jericho. And if a wrestler is successful, they probably have been mentored or trained by Pat Patterson. I mean, not only is he the original #1 Intercontinental Champion defeating 952 guys or whatever they want us to believe, but he was just a legend in every aspect. I mean, he could talk. He had gimmicks. He made fun of himself. The evening gown matches, everything he did. Even when he was the Stooge, he played that character well, and he's a legend. That it's definitely a sad day in wrestling to lose Pat Patterson. And I thought the same thing. Like, it's really eerie. I thought you were kind of ribbing me at first when you had me watch this. I'm like, oh, is this so I can see Pat Patterson one more time? This is kind of eerie, but it was cool to see him come out. Like, it was kind of a nice way of seeing some of the good of Pat Patterson.
Yeah, absolutely. And just as a side note, I know it's a little off topic, but if you didn't catch SmackDown yesterday, I would go ahead and watch it. They did a really cool tribute to Pat Patterson. They did the 10-bell salute, and then they did the Pat Patterson memorial match, which was a 6-man tag match between all former Intercontinental title champions. And they brought out the original Intercontinental title that Pat Patterson won, which was really cool.
Yeah, that was a very cool moment on SmackDown, and I thought that was a cool way to kind of pay homage to his legacy, to have that tournament and to have that match, because it showed that without him, the Intercontinental title wouldn't have meant anything.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone today can say, like The Miz and all of them can say, oh, I made the title. No, he made the title. He made a mid-card title mean as much as the world title, so it's definitely a great loss, and it was a great tribute by WWE. For as much as I will poo-poo on them when they do wrong, I will gotta give them credit when they do things right, and they hit it out of the park last night on SmackDown.
Absolutely. Shane McMahon also makes a couple of other announcements. Gerald Briscoe is going to be your special guest referee. And Vince McMahon is going to be your special guest commentator. So, they're trying to set up to, get at Stone Cold Steve Austin here, trying to stack the deck up against him. So your main event is a fatal 4-way match. It's Stone Cold Steve Austin getting a win here, though, over Kane, Mankind, and The Undertaker in about 16 minutes. I thought this was a really cool match. It was kind of a little weird way how it started. It started with just Mankind and Kane, and then The Undertaker comes out, and then Stone Cold comes out afterwards.
Like a staggered entrance. It was different.
It was a little bit different, yeah. And the whole stick through the match was Gerald Briscoe's not going to count on a Stone Cold fall. He's going to get hurt, or he's going to get something in the eye. And then Stone Cold decks Gerald Briscoe, and Earl Hebner comes out, and that enables Stone Cold to get the win. So I thought this was a really cool way to end the show. I thought this probably was the most entertaining and probably one of the best match of the night, and I thought it was a cool way to end. I really liked this one.
I do too. I mean, I think even from when they set up at the beginning of the night with Mankind in the boiler room at the beginning of the night, between matches, cutting the promo in the boiler room, to the different promos they cut through the night, and then, like you said, to have the match, all the shenanigans at the beginning with, having Gerald Briscoe come out as a referee, and just everything kind of culminating, and then, oh, my shoulder hurts, or oh, like you said, or oh, my eye, just that was fun. It made it fun. Like that's what wrestling is. It's like it's a silly, ridiculous match, but it was a fun match. And I thought when Earl Hebner came out, I still kind of like did a small little pop, even though I knew it was happening. I'm like, yeah, Earl Hebner, like, cause he's actually one of my favorite referees. So seeing him come out, like, oh, that's right, he came out to help count, and then seeing Stone Cold beat the odds, as that was kind of what they're building up to, the Austin versus the corporation angle kind of thing, Austin versus McMahon. Like, this is that good. This is when Austin really started getting white hot. So this is when England kind of got a little tease of what was to come.
Absolutely. And it was kind of cool, too, speaking of Earl Hebner, him celebrating at the end of the match, doing the finger and, and drinking the beer and everything. We should mention Vinnie Jones, a soccer player, was the special guest here. I don't really know too much about Vinnie Jones, to be honest with you. I guess he does have kind of a reputation of kind of being this badass guy. So he was involved in play here as well.
I kind of remember from, I think, Euro Trip. I think he played like a soccer hooligan in Euro Trip, where he opened beer bottles. But that's about as much as I know about him. I'm not a big soccer fan, so I know Pele. That's about as much as I know about soccer, who Pele is. But no, I agree. I think that they were trying to sell it like he was this big, but maybe he's got to be big over there. So maybe to them it was a huge thing. I'm not really sure, but it was interesting because I'm like, oh, who is that? And I kind of had to look it up. I'm like, oh, that's right, he's the guy from Euro Trip.
Yeah. So overall, I thought the show was all right. I'll probably give it at a scale of 1 to 10. I would probably give it around a 6.5. It was really a slow start, and it didn't pick up to like the last 3 or 4 matches for me. So that's why my rating's about that 6.5 range. But I really liked how it finished, especially the last 2 matches.
Yeah, I would agree. That's a very fair rate. I'd say about a 5 or 6 for myself as well. Probably you kind of had to slog through like 6 or 7 matches before it kind of got interesting. If you kind of watch like what we did, go back and rewatch it, it's not as bad. But I feel like if you watch that live, if you paid the $50 for the pay-per-view, you really didn't get your money's worth until the last 3 matches.
Yeah, absolutely.
It felt like a glorified Raw. And then once New Age Outlaws came out, once those last 3 matches, because then you got pay-per-view quality matches. So I don't know if there was just last-minute booking changes or what happened. I tried looking it up to see if there's any issues, but besides the Rock and X-Pac changing, there wasn't really a lot of information about. I think this is the card they wanted to present. I'm not sure, but I think the last 3 saved it, because if those last 3 were in there, it would probably be one of the worst pay-per-views they've put out.
Yeah, I agree. So that is our rundown of Capital Carnage 1998. Coming up for you guys next week, it's going to be Armageddon 1999. That is the beginning of the McMahon-Helmsley era, so looking forward to dissecting that one. And just a quick programming note, it looks like Mongo, you're going to be back with us for that show as well. So what are you looking forward to with that one?
I think I'm actually just looking forward to rewatching the Triple H Vince McMahon match, just because I know it wasn't a traditional match, but anytime you can kind of stick it to your boss, it's always fun. So I think that was, from what I remember, it was an entertaining match. So I'm looking forward to rewatching that. Also curious to see if WWE edits out the nudity in this one as well, because another nudity pay-per-view.
Yes. So Armageddon 1999, that is coming up for you guys next week at 5 o'clock. Until then, everyone, take care. Bongo, thank you for joining in, kind of last minute notice. Thank you for joining in today.
No, anytime. Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, we'll be back next week. Everybody, take care. Until next week, I'm Tim Kurt.
And I'm Bongo.
And this is Wrestling with Wrestling's Past and Present.
I hope you're all having a nice day.